All right, good morning and welcome everybody to today's open forum. Appreciate you guys all coming in. You look great. Those of you on camera, those of you who can get on camera, please do that. I'd love to see your reactions and responses to things. Your lovely faces. Please be as interactive as you can today. This stuff, I need to make sure that you guys are catching it, and that if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. And great to see you, Christina. Thanks for coming on. All you guys, thank you and good morning. All right, I'm going to share. There's Harvey. I'm going to share with you guys the screen. Oh, look at this, Clarence. This is exciting. All right. We're going to share screen here, and we're going to go over a few things. I don't know if you guys use Transaction Desk or Form Simplicity. I don't care. You can use whatever you'd like. Those of you who don't know, Form Simplicity is put on by Florida Realtors, and Transaction Desk is through your MLS affiliation. Let's talk about creating a transaction. Let's say we have a listing. That's what we're talking about today. So let's say we have a listing. This is what I do from, this is Transaction Desk is my preferred one. I don't care what you do. I like to use Transaction Desk because I can answer questions on it a lot easier, just have a lot more experience with it. Name of this is 2675 Cabernet Circle. That is a property that I used to own. So I knew it existed. Residential listing, let's do. Import data, select source. Use Realist Stellar, and it is going to ask me, it is in Orange County, Florida, in the tax ID, which I've already looked it up on the Orange County Property Appraiser, which I'm not sharing that with you guys because it's not popping up on the screen, but I already have the tax ID, which I got from there. And there we go. Everybody see that okay? All right, there we go. We're going to create this. We did use Wizard, but we don't really need to. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. The reason you want to do this is because it's going to fill in all of the legal stuff. Okay, there it is. We're just going to save and exit from here. You can put in the listing price and do that, fill that kind of stuff out right then. I'd rather just do it on the form. So when you do that, we have, as a brokerage, a template of different things. I don't know if you guys have been using this, but we have a template. We already have the right transaction broker listing agreement, the things that we prefer that you use. We already have those loaded on here. And they're typically, just because the way I put them in, they list them upside down. So the most important and common one is last. Then next would be the homeowner association, then the seller's property, and then disclosure, and then short sale addenda, lead-based paint, etc. Okay, so those are things that you will find, those of you who are familiar with our system, that are in your checklist. And of course, you don't always need all these things. It's not always in a homeowner association. Your seller won't always do a property disclosure. Your what else is there? The short sale, obviously, it's not always a short sale. Obviously, it's not always lead-based. So those things, as you guys know, if you've done deals, you haven't had those forms, and Michaela or any sales administrator that we've had has X those off of the list without you even seeing them. They're on the checklist and then they're off, and you didn't supply them. So they're not checked off, they're just deleted. She has to do that with every one that isn't a short sale, which is about 99.9% of them. Which is wonderful. We haven't seen a lot of short sales. I will discuss it real briefly with you guys just so you know how it works. But first we're going to do the listing agreement. Guys, I'm going to run through this listing agreement. If you have questions, stop me. We have, usually when I do these refreshers on things, it's because we've had a little bit of issue. I've had questions, can I do a limited listing? Yes, you can. That's perfectly fine. It's not great business, but you can do one. It's just, it's not usually strong salesmanship, but you absolutely can do it. All right, so they always mess up the names here. I'm not going to do all three names. These are the people that bought the property from me. Grandpa and something. All right, so that's that. Here we're going to put Florida Realty Investments. This is not your name, it is our brokerage. If you want to put / your name, that's that. I don't really care. It's the deal is the paperwork and the laws of agency say it's with Florida Realty Investments. Okay, now this line, this is important. I get this question a lot from you guys. This line 6 is, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Yeah, you can a little bit. This line is important. It does not matter. I answer this question once a week for you guys. Does not matter when they sign the listing agreement. What matters is the date here. Okay, this is the date of this agreement. I can sign an agreement for you to list my house starting in December. Okay, I can sign it today. You've had people do that. You've had people say, you know what, we're going to leave town. We're going out of the country for a month, but we want you to start listing our property. How long will it take you to get it on the market? And you say, well, I got to get we're going to finish the flooring, and I got to get photos, and I got to get this and this. I need 2 weeks to get it on the market. And so they'll sign something that starts in 2 weeks, but they're leaving town today. Okay, you can absolutely do that. You can do it 2 months. You can do it a year from now. Doesn't matter. When they sign it doesn't matter. You don't need an MLS exclusion because they've already signed it. The date that they sign it does not matter. All that matters is this. Okay, these are the dates that you have the right to list the property. That's it. If the property is under contract when it terminates, let's say it takes you get a 3-month listing agreement. I recommend longer, but let's say you get a 3-month listing agreement and it takes 60 days and it goes under contract. And then it doesn't close for 45 days. So it closes 15 days after your contract runs out. Your listing agreement runs out. Do you need to re-up the listing agreement to close that deal and get paid? Anybody know? Absolutely not. You got it signed up while it was under the listing agreement. So it doesn't matter when it closes. It can take, we've had deals take 4 or 5 months to close, right? And the listing agreement has terminated because it ran out. That's perfectly fine. It's great if you get it then to extend the listing agreement, but you don't have to. If it's under contract, pending, doesn't matter. You still get paid. You got the deal. You were procuring cause during that time. All right. They figured out all the legal stuff here. Is it currently occupied by a tenant? Okay, that only is a tenant, not the owner. So if it's the owner still living there, is not currently occupied by a tenant. Obviously, if it's rented out, it is. And you put the expiration of the lease. I've had that question also. The owner's living there. Is that a tenant? No, that's the owner. Price doesn't matter. Let's sell it for cheap. All right, $199,000. Cash, conventional. People typically take all those, but whatever they'll agree to take here, or whatever they can take. Obviously, some condos and stuff can't take FHA. Certain properties can't take FHA. Then we won't do that. Seller financing, all that stuff, it's obviously complicated. We'll get into that, and we won't get into that today, but we'll get into it on a case by case. You're going to get an attorney involved with any kind of seller financing because you need a mortgage and a note. You guys don't write those. Okay, multiple listing service, all the things that you guys do. Okay, display the property on the internet except the street address. So this is only if they don't want their street address. So I've never clicked that one. Seller does not authorize broker to display property on the MLS. That's happened before. But whatever it is, have them sign here. Use a lockbox system, withhold verbal offers. I typically, I always check this one, even if we're not sure we're going to. Withhold verbal offers, I do not check that because I want to run them by them if I can, if they're reasonable. Withhold all offers once seller accepts a sales contract for the property. I typically do that one. That's just me. I don't like the seller to get greedy and try to get out of a deal and all that stuff if you already have a deal. They don't really understand how they need to understand how binding a sales contract is, particularly for the seller. Seller does not authorize automated estimate of the market value of the listing. Go to Zillow, go to Realtor, go to anyone who does a Zestimate or a automated algorithm to come up with a price next to it. And if it's friendly, then I authorize it. If it's not friendly, if I'm asking what's this, 199? If Zillow says it's worth 175, I don't want Zillow saying that, right? If Zillow says it's worth 220, then I absolutely want Zillow. I want to leave this estimate. So that's either authorize it or don't authorize it based on what it is. Okay. Second one, and that's something you're going to click in the MLS. You guys know those boxes that you click in the MLS. Those are the ones that you click that authorize the evaluation or not. That's where that comes into play. That's how Zillow knows whether or not to allow it, to have it on there. Any of these feeder sites. Seller does not authorize third party to write comments or reviews about the listing. Again, another box there on the realtor page of your listing. And that is, sorry, give me 1 second. Okay. Another box there, and that is something you never want. You don't want third parties writing comments. That is never, ever, ever helpful. They never say, boy, this is the best property we've ever seen. We just didn't want to make an offer. It's always overpriced, or it's there was a shooting in the neighborhood. It was, whatever. They're going to not put something nice. They're going to make a reason why they didn't make an offer. Do not allow third parties. There's no reason for that. I write none in these boxes. Oh, by the way, I should have checked these. Sorry. Let's say they don't. They're usually not that friendly for what we're asking. Okay, compensation. This is the total compensation. If you are selling your own house and you don't want to, and you shouldn't have FRI process 3%, because you're going to have to do it as ordinary income instead of capital gains on your house. Again, I'm not giving tax advice. Just typically, if this is a house you lived in more than 2 years, you have certain kind of allowances and stuff. Talk to your tax professional for that. But what I am telling you is most of the time you just want to do, let's say you're offering 3% to someone else, then your total would be 3 here. This is the total compensation that the seller is doing. So typically, this is for your own house, because I get this question a lot. Or I see people do 6% and they pay themselves 3% and they have to pay ordinary income on that. Not very smart. So let's do this. Make it a regular deal. Let's say we're doing 6%, and this is where you do plus the 350. If you have the buyer, you're going to use the affiliated business disclosure to get the 350 across, or 175, whatever program you're on. If you're representing the seller, this is where you do it. You do not have to give them affiliated business disclosure now, because it says right here that they owe you 350. And the affiliated business disclosure is for buyers anyway, because it has Megan's Law and we recommended inspection and all that stuff. It's all buyers disclosure stuff. All right. So this is where you would do that. Okay. If you're going to charge them the 350 or 175, this is a great place to do it. Otherwise, you can't surprise them on the HUD, or they'll get mad. This is where we're going to offer 3%. And then I'm going to talk about what we talked about last time. You guys can do 0%, 1%, 3% for the thing. I would typically do the same all the way across the board, because I've never have run into a non-rep. This does not mean, we talked about this last week, because another agent with another brokerage thought that this meant if they're not a member of the MLS. Okay. So it does not mean that. It's a non-representative agreement. For a transaction broker, 3% of the purchase price to a broker has no brokerage relationship with the buyer. Why are you showing a buyer houses if you have no brokerage relationship? You're not, right? So it doesn't matter. I've never seen you guys deal with that. I'm sure someone has at some point, but I've never seen you guys deal with that. And so someone tried to get out of paying a commission because they had that lowered. Conditional termination, termination fee. I always get, you want to be reimbursed for all your expenses and stuff like that. You don't want to be left in a lurch on a listing that somebody pulls from you, a month after you go under. They didn't give you a reasonable amount of time to sell it, or, whatever. They're blaming you because it's not selling because it's overpriced and you already told them and blah, 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 right? So let's talk about this. They already have to pay you for all direct expenses incurred in marketing the property. Okay. That's your photos. That's your sign that you had put out. That's your, the fee for putting it out. That's maybe your gas and stuff. I don't know. You work that out with them, but you can add a cancellation fee here as well. Okay. I typically wouldn't do one because you get reimbursed for all that stuff. But if you want to do a $500 or $1,000, they owe that when they cancel. They owe that to FRI, and we'll turn it around and give it to you. All right. Including that. So if it's $500 and then you spent $300 on other stuff, then it would be $800. Okay. It's not in place of it. It's in addition to the terms, to the expenses that you had. Additional terms. This is where you write, if you're going to be nice and give them a dual variable commission and say, this is not where you say, if broker represents both sides, it's only 4%. Because if this is Daryl's listing and Lisa sells it, Daryl and Lisa are now splitting 4%. because they're Florida Realty Investments. They're not Daryl and Lisa. So this is where Daryl will put on his listing agreement. If Daryl Hunt with Florida Realty Investments represents both sides, then he'll we'll take 4% total commission. Okay. If you're going to do that, you don't ever have to do that, but they might ask, some sellers will ask that, what if you get the whole, whatever, then this is where you would do that. And that's a dual variable commission. Okay. All right. Then there's the signatures. That's it. Any other questions on the listing agreement? Did you guys get anything out of that?
That was great, Ryan. Can you explain dual variable commission again?
That's if you decide to take less if you get both sides.
Can you put that in additional terms, or was there another section? I'm on
No,
my phone, so I can't see it.
additional terms, but just make sure you put Angie Allstop.
Absolutely.
Not all of you.
Yeah.
Put your own name, but don't put Florida Realty Investments, because if Angie and Daryl work together on a deal, or anybody, and you guys do this every month, you guys run into each other out there. We got a lot of you out there, so you run into each other on deals. You don't even know each other, and you run into each other. Happens every month, and so make sure that you put that. You will get burned on this. It has happened before. They didn't actually enforce it because they didn't really realize it, because it wasn't the same person, but it is technically something that they agreed to do 4% instead of 6%. So be sure you use your own name, the listing agent's name, representing both parties. Okay.
I've also been adding in the additional terms, something you suggested a couple months ago about if offers are below 80% of the list price, that we'll be withholding them. I've been adding that too. That's been helpful.
Yeah, because you guys get flooded with these nonsense lowball offers when you put a listing on, or if it hits 30 days, or you can tell what it is. You can tell the percentage that they do. They'll have some, $345, $828 offer they make you, and it's based exactly on 70% or 75% or whatever it is of the asking price. And then you'll also, when you start getting them again, you figure out, oh, it's been on the market for 30 days or 45 days or whatever their trigger is to pop out those emails again. So, and you don't have to present ones that are just listing the terms on an email either. If they didn't bother to write it on a contract, you wouldn't have to present that anyway. That's a verbal offer. If they send you an email with you can do withhold verbal offers if you want to do that. If they send you an email with a bunch of terms on it that they just pop out, you don't have to present that. But if you do the what you were just talking about there, seller doesn't want to be bothered with offers under 80% of asking price. Perfect. You don't have to do that. And you can let the people know, those annoying people that send you the same people every time that send you the lowball offers. I can't present an offer that's under 80% or 90% or whatever of listing price. Okay. Any other questions? Did you guys get anything out of that? Anything you want to talk about again?
I have a question, Brian.
Hi, Malvis.
Hi. So what if you at the time that you sign the listing agreement, you don't agree to do any dual variable commission, but then you build that relationship with your seller, and then at the end you don't write it on the listing agreement, but towards the end you change your mind and you say, you know what, since I'm representing both, I'm going to give you guys a discount. At that point in time, since it was not written in the listing agreement, do we need to fill up like a modification to a listing agreement to reflect that doable variable commission?
No, you can always drop. You can negotiate later. That's fine. Just tell the title company. Anything you tell the title company, they'll do. Obviously, you can't raise it, but you can drop it.
Drop it. Oh, okay.
I mean, you could raise it if the seller said, "Oh my gosh, Malvis, that's the best job anybody's ever done. You were amazing. I know you were doing this." No, I'm dead serious about this. I know you were going to do this for a total of 3.5. You're doing 2.5 for them and only 1 for you because you're a good friend from church or whatever. But we want to pay you a little bit more. Can they do that? Absolutely. Anything you guys agree to.
Okay. And then if you don't mind going back on the very first page, I always tumble through that as of the day of the listing agreement, because I have done an exclusion from, I signed a listing agreement that the sellers were not able to put on the MLS like a month afterwards, after we signed the agreement. So I did fill out an exclusion because I don't want to get in trouble with the MLS. That date that you put the very first day,
Mhm.
is that the day that the property is to go on the market, or that's the day they're signing, correct?
Within 24 business hours, 24 hours or one business day, it needs to go on the internet from this, it needs to go on MLS from whatever date I choose. But if they, Malvis, if they're leaving town tomorrow and they've got to sign something today, I don't pick today. I pick the, they're leaving town, but the property won't be ready to go on the market until the end of the month. So I would pick the 31st or the 1st or whatever, and that's when I would put it on the market. And that gives me time to take photos and do everything we need to do, or if they had, work done or whatever. It doesn't matter when they sign.
Okay,
They can
so
sign it today and put it on the market in 6 months.
so what you're saying is today is May 8th, and my seller tells me I cannot put the home on the market until June 5th. So June 5th will go on that line number 6. And then May 8th will go under the signature on the very last page.
Yeah, it's however they sign it. Yeah, Yep.
Okay.
that's it. So here's exactly what you would do. And if it's 6 months, you would go bang, 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 bang. And you would go December 5th, right? December 4th actually is a 6 month. So you would do from June 5th to December 4th, that's 6 months.
Okay.
Okay. If you guys are ever writing a lease for anything, by the way, always make sure, I want to go ahead and cover this. We talked about it a long time ago because it came up with something that we did. You do not write a lease from June 5th to June 5th or January 1st to January 1st. It's always January 1st to December 31st. If you write it from January 1st, you guys do this a lot on like other months, March 1st to March 1st. If you do that, that's more than a 1-year lease and it is not legal. So people have been burned like that. That's the little technicalities that lawyers look for when they're trying to help a tenant get out of a lease or something like that. So just keep that in mind. So a 6 month is from June 5th to December 4th. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And this is how you would do it. Doesn't matter when they sign. They can sign today. They can sign June 4th. They can sign June 5th. They can sign anytime between now and then.
But June 5th is when the house is to be going on the MLS.
Right. And you don't have, and the only time you'll need an exclusion is if it goes past June 5th before you get it on there. Like June 5th is coming and I'm not ready. Okay, then we get an exclusion. Or you can modify the listing agreement.
Okay.
Either one. All right.
Thank you.
That's even better, to modify the listing agreement and say, you know what, we'll do 6 months from June 10th or whenever I can get it on. Okay. Any other questions on the listing agreement?
Ryan, what is the MLS exclusion form used for?
For people who, for some reason, they can't get, they don't want it on the MLS, not don't want it because we would just do that on here. But they actually, even if you do it on here, you need the exclusion form. It's for any reason you can't put it on the MLS. They're doing work to it. They're doing whatever. I mean, you could take it temporarily off, but there are different reasons. The MLS requires it if it's not on for whatever reason. They think it's, you're trying to keep a pocket listing. So they want to make sure the seller knows that you're pocket listing something. That's what it is. It's to protect the consumer from realtors who don't have it on the MLS because they think they've got a buyer for it and they take more than that one business day. And it's happened before where they keep it in their pocket for 2 weeks trying to sell it themselves without the seller knowing. So that's become a thing, and another thing that erodes the trust in realtors. Go ahead.
What's the example of when you would use that?
I've seen it for all kinds of stuff. For they're having work done to it, they just can't show it for a week because they are going out of town or whatever. They wanted it on the market. They can't show it for a week, so they can't. I can't. They want to be there for showings. You've had sellers like that before. That kind of thing. There's not a lot of great reasons for it. They just don't want you doing pocket listings. I mean,
But that's already in the agreement, right? We can't pre-market. We can't market until that date. So that's why I'm just...
You're right. But then June 5th comes along. Let's say Malvis's house here. June 5th comes along, and Malvis doesn't put it in the MLS because she thinks she has a deal working with one of your clients. She's working with you on the deal, and she wants to. So not even you. Let's say she's got her own people that are interested. She thinks she has a buyer for it. So she's trying to get their financing together past June 5th. So she doesn't put it on MLS because she doesn't want other people to see it and put in offers because she wants to hoard all the commission. That's the problem with this.
Okay, it just seems kind of silly because like it's already the rule. So if you're going to break the rule, then you're probably going to break the rule and not go get an exclusion form filled out because it's
Yeah,
already the rule. Seems
but this
redundant.
but if you break the rule, there's nobody really to do an ethics complaint. 'Cause there's no real victim other than sellers. This is it carries a big fine. The MLS exclusion form, if you don't fill that out, carries a big fine. So if Malvis puts her sign in the yard and doesn't put it on, I mean, otherwise they wouldn't even know that she has a listing agreement, right? She puts her sign in the yard though, and it's not on MLS, and you live down the street, you're gonna be like, oh, I wonder what's going on with that house, and you're gonna look it up. You being a realtor, you're gonna look it up on MLS and say it's not even on the MLS, and that sign's been up for a week and a half. You're gonna report her, and she's gonna get in trouble, or she's gonna have to come up with a MLS listing exclusion signed by the seller and backdated to when the listing was supposed to start or when that sign went up, and she's now the seller knows that she wasn't really marketing their property, she was pocket listing.
When I
Okay.
used it, Ryan, Angie, when I used it, it was because I didn't know, I didn't remember, I didn't know that on that first line, number 6, I went to my listing appointment and the seller told me I cannot put my home on the market. I need at least 2 weeks. I thought at the time that that date on line 6 needed to be the same date as the date of the signature. So let's say I went to their home yesterday and they told me don't put it on the market for 2 weeks. I would have put on that line the date of yesterday and the date on the signature, the date of yesterday. Because MLS tells us that we have 5 days to put it on the MLS. That's why I filled out the MLS exclusion, because I had more than 5 days that the seller didn't want me to put the home on the market. That's how I ended up using. Have I known or have I asked if 2 weeks from now date was the one that I was supposed to put on line 6, I wouldn't have to fill out that MLS exclusion. But that's the reason why I did it, because I
Yeah.
thought.
No, exactly. Yeah, I've heard, and other agents have told me that same exact thing. I feel like when I first started years ago at Keller Williams, they told us that's how we had to do it. So another agent said they've been doing that all along for every single listing they do, and I've never done it that way. I've always filled out the date that it's going to go active is that first date, and they sign it when they sign it, which is always before then. And I've never used that, so that's why I was really confused about why you would even need that. And I do see what you're talking about, Ryan. But yeah, Malvis, you don't need to do an MLS exclusion with every single listing, because almost never are we going to sign a listing and we're putting it on the market within 24 hours. That probably almost never happens.
Almost never, unless you already have the pictures or you're re-putting it back on or something like that. Yeah. Okay, guys, let's move on to the short sale addendum. And if you guys have more questions on the list agreement, please feel free. This is but what that rule is, guys, it was set up to keep people from pocket listing and that kind of thing. And it has teeth. They've got a big fine with it. I think it's $1,500 or something like that. All right. This is a short sale listing agreement. It's addendum to the listing agreement for a short sale. Okay. This says that they're doing a short sale, that their third party is, there's a third party has to approve it. Those of you guys don't know, I'm going to cover it real quickly. You can put if you list a short sale, you can put whatever price you want on it. Obviously, you get an offer, you submit that offer to the bank will counter it. Then you have an approved price. You'll see short sales with a approved bank approved price. They'll say that in the public remarks. The first thing they'll say is bank approved price. That means someone offered, let's say they put it on for 300 and they think the house is worth 350 or whatever, but they put it on for 300 just to get some offers, right? Because you got to get this process started. So somebody's going to come in and make an offer for 280. They're going to submit that 280 offer to the bank. The bank thinks it's worth 350 because it is. The bank's going to come back though at 340. Okay. Now, as a listing agent, I'm going to change my price to 340 and say it's a bank approved price. Okay. At least doesn't guarantee that the next one's going to be approved. The bank can't change their mind or negotiate something else, but we know they approved 340 before. That's all that means. They countered at 340 before. Can you counter back and forth? Yes, you can. So if that first buyer said, you know what, I offered 280, you came back at 340, let me try for 325. The bank can look at that and say 335. All right. And then that's your bank approved price. If they agreed to take it that one time. That does not mean that you put it back on at 335 and the next offer for 335, the bank's not going to say, nope, it's worth 350. and then they negotiate from there. Okay. The bank does not want to go to the auction. They don't want to do that. They lose money. They don't want to be REO. They're not in the business of holding assets. They're in the business of using your money for other stuff. They want that money to use for something else. They can make more with it than they can selling that house on the courthouse steps or putting it through an REO agent. Okay. That's how the short sale process works. Do you need this form if you're selling your own house? You need the listing agreement. You don't need this unless you're short selling your own house. Okay. This is only for short sales. Okay. Always check these things. The seller, both of these systems, Form Simplicity and Transaction Desk, mess up their names and stuff like this one. It has it as two people and. Listing Associates does sign on this one. And the broker signs. You can sign for both. You're representative of the broker. All right. Any questions on that? We're also going to look at the buying side one just because I want to go over this with you. Because I get a lot of questions on that for you guys when you're buying a short sale. And there's not a lot of short sales going on right now, but there are some, enough that I'm getting questions about it. All right. There's two of these. I have to look at them to make sure which one is best, but I think it's this one. The other one goes with the crisp anyway, but this one's the one you want to use. Okay, seller and buyer. The property located at 2675 Cabernet, whatever the address is. Okay. The approval of lender. If seller does not deliver written notice to buyer that lender has approved the purchase price and contract terms within, typically you want a drop dead date of 60 days, something like that here. Buying a short sale takes time. It is a good deal, usually, but it takes time. So they'll want 60 days or 30 days, whatever. But if you're the buyer, you need to know something. If lender rejects the contract prior to the expiration approval deadline, either party may thereafter cancel the contract by delivering written notice to the other. However, such right to cancel shall cease to exist if seller delivered written notice the contract has been approved by the lender. So if the price you offer gets approved, you're in the deal. Usually it doesn't unless it's the second time, unless it's already approved price. But your first one typically doesn't get approved. Whatever you offered, they figure you're trying to steal it and they come back at something higher. And listing agents, when you have a short sale, and I'm recommending this underlist, the seller doesn't care. The seller's just happy to get out with their credit still somewhat intact, and not having to take any money to the bank or go through the whole foreclosure process. So they typically don't care. They're not allowed to walk with a dime. No side deals, no nothing. You can't cut them back some of your commission. You can't do any of that. It is illegal. It is fraud. You're defrauding a bank. It is a serious crime. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what degree of misdemeanor or felony that is, but it's serious and it's fraud. Okay. Okay, time periods. Except for the approval deadline, all time periods for inspections, contingency, deposit, other obligations under the contract shall commence from the date seller delivers written notice to buyer that the contract has been approved by the lender. So once the lender signs off on your offer, remember that 335 we talked about? I offered 335 and the bank agreed to it. That's the price they agreed to before with the other person, which the listing agent told everybody, put it in the remarks. Everybody knows that that's the agreement they came to before. So I made that offer because I think it's a good deal. They obviously approved it. And once the seller or the listing agent delivered written notice to me, now my time starts. That's my effective date of this contract I'd already written. That's the new effective date. That's what this addendum does. Makes that the effective date. Now, if I put a 10-day inspection, I've got a 10-day inspection. If I did whatever I did, all my time periods, if I've got to apply for a mortgage within 5 days, it starts now, or the day that they delivered that. All time periods shall commence from the effective date. Don't ever do that one. So do this one, because you don't know how long that's going to be. I mean, what are you going to do, a 45-day inspection date, hoping that they approve it at 30 days or whatever? Don't do that. Just do a regular contract and then do this one. Except for the approval deadline, all time periods start once I know that they've approved my contract. Okay, that's just like a seller approving your contract. The lender takes the place of the seller when it comes to approvals. The seller has no right. The seller's going to sign any contract you put in front of them because the lender's going to negotiate everything. Okay. All right. multiple offers, backup, blah, blah, blah. During the terms of the contract, seller may accept a backup. Okay. Seller may not accept any backup offers is what I would do if I'm trying to buy this. And I am, if I'm filling this out, it's with the contract, it's with the offer. So I'm representing my buyer. I don't want them taking backups. Okay. I mean, I want my shot at the deal, right? So it's not in my best interest to allow backups unless they say we'll only take them if you allow backup. That's it. They have not revised this form since 2010. Hasn't been any need for it. It's very simple. Do you guys understand short sales, how they work? Did I explain that pretty well, or? Let me check the chat, see what's going on. Yes, Christina, you definitely need the listing agreement. It's just between you. You can sign for both parties on the listing agreement if you're selling your own house, but the agreement's between you and Florida Realty Investments. You absolutely need a listing agreement. You need a listing agreement for any listing. Anything you put on MLS, we get audited for your listing agreement. Okay? We need it. It is the law. Any other questions on this? Guys, give me some questions on Addenda. I know you don't understand them all. I love that we've got 48 people in here. I know you came to hear about the Addenda and the listing agreement. Give me some questions about anything you want. You had to have had some issues with something. Okay. All right, let's go back to the listing, seller's property disclosure. You guys, when you have these, what do you do if it's an investor and they never lived in the house? All right, here's the deal. Is a seller's property disclosure required? Seller's property disclosure is not required by law. If they are some fancy person who has a lawyer that's going to advise them through this thing, the lawyer is going to tell them, do not fill out okay, this is great. I'm glad I came up with this question for myself. So you do have to disclose anything of material value to the home, any material defect to the home. You do absolutely have to disclose it. Do you have to have a seller's property disclosure? No. A seller does not have to fill out a seller's property disclosure. Do a lot of buyers want one? Of course they do. Do a lot of brokerages tell their people, you better have one? They do, but it is not the law, and no broker, if they go to their broker, I know they hassle you for these, even if you don't have them. I've had it happen to me. Oh, I need one. I need one. No, you don't. It's not a legal requirement. And if you have an investor, you guys have all seen these because you've asked me about it. Ryan, what's wrong with this house? They just put on there that they've never lived there. And they just put big X's across this. They can absolutely do that. They've never lived in the home. They don't know all the little things wrong with it. Anything that they know of, they should have fixed. So do I need to disclose if I have a leaky roof? Of course. Do I need to disclose if I had a leaky roof 2 years ago, I've got a stain on my ceiling, but I fixed the roof? No, you don't have to disclose that. You obviously had a leak. There's a stain on the ceiling. You fixed it. You don't have to disclose that. If someone asks, what happened? You say, oh, there was a roof leak. We fixed it. Why didn't you fix the ceiling? I don't know. I didn't need to. You know, it's ugly, but I'm dry. So, you know, whatever. There's reasons for that. So, and then what do? You make sure your inspector checks it out and say, the inspector is going to look at that obviously very closely. He's going to see the thing, and he's going to look for a leak. So that is, he's going to take his little moisture detector and see if it's been wet or anything recently. So of course you have to disclose if something is currently wrong with the house. Anything, he says right here, Florida law requires a seller of a home to disclose to the buyer all known facts that materially affect the value of the property being sold that are not readily observable or known by the buyer. If it has a giant hole in the roof, do I have to disclose that? I would still disclose that, even though it can easily be seen. But yes, if the pool is green, do I have to disclose that? Yeah, I have to disclose if the pump's not working. But if I've just been lazy or saving electricity, not having it on, I don't. There's nothing wrong with the pool, if that's the case, except that it's green. So hopefully you guys understand that. Yes, you absolutely do this. It happens anytime you guys represent an absentee owner. The property is either owner occupied, tenant occupied, or unoccupied. Usually it's either tenant occupied or unoccupied. And how long has it been since the seller occupied the property? Seller never occupied. You can do that. Okay. Then what I do is I go in my handy signature program. And at the bottom of every page and the top of every page, I do a text box right here that says seller never occupied property. And then again, right here, seller never occupied property. All right. I don't do the big X's across. That's just looks crappy. But if you say seller never occupied property, seller never occupied property, they obviously fixed anything that came up. If you fix something, my point is if you fix something and it's no longer a problem, you don't have to disclose it. If your sink was leaking and you fixed it, you don't have to disclose it. Okay? If it's still leaking, you have to disclose it. All right. And that's why I didn't really go into that before. I put the word none on the listing agreement. That was the seller doesn't know anything. The seller pretty much says the seller is disclosing everything that they know is wrong with the property, except for, and I put none. Okay, so there's no exceptions. They've disclosed to me everything that's wrong with the property, and I am certainly going to disclose it to anyone else. So that is what. Now, should you get a one of these signed? Yes, of course, it would be great for you. It protects us. The data entry, the MLS. Let's talk about the MLS data entry. I'm not going to go through it, but let's talk about it. The MLS data entry form. Please get those filled out and signed by the buyers. That is what saves you guys washers and dryers. That is what saves you guys from any kind of disclosure type stuff. They said that the house had this, they said that the house had that. They are signing that form. They are going through that form and filling out with you, with your guidance, because they won't know what all this stuff is. With your guidance, they're going to go through and fill that out. But that protects you, it protects us, and it protects the client as well. As does this form also. You'll see they'll disclose all kinds of stuff on here that they don't really have to, but if they want to, that's great. Over disclosing is great. So that's what I encourage. Disclose, disclose, disclose. Anything else? You guys have any questions on anything else?
Yes.
Yes.
I do have a question. I have 2 properties right now. We are submitting offers, and for both of them, the realtor told me that they don't have a seller's disclosure. She says the owner never lived in the property, and she said if you have any questions about the property, you can ask me because I've been managing the property for the past 5 years or something like that. So there is something with we're gonna have home inspection soon, but there's something weird with the house has skylights, and so I guess we're gonna let the inspector discover that and let us know what's going on.
What's the problem with the skylights? Are they leaking?
It shows like some stains and it's, you don't know. I mean, we can't tell from the bottom. You can tell if it's the roof or the skylight, the one that's kind of like having a situation. And
Okay.
she did said that they're gonna have themselves. The seller is gonna have an inspection this week regarding that area.
Perfect. So she disclosed it to you that there's a problem.
Yes, she did said that
That's what-
when I asked her about the offers and all that.
She's doing a beautiful job, and so are you.
Okay.
You're getting it
And-
looked at, and she's getting it looked at. I mean, can't do more than that. That's perfect. She's disclosed to you that there's an issue. Yeah.
Do we need any paperwork? Because she doesn't have a seller's disclosure, and so I won't be able to upload anything.
Nope. You don't need paperwork at all. You've got an as-is contract, and if you don't like what you find out about it, and they're not willing to fix it, then you back out.
We work that out. Yeah,
You
right.
either
Okay.
negotiate for it or you cancel. No, you're doing everything beautifully. Make sure you are emailing your seller or your buyer and talking about what's going on. Your duty is to your buyer to make sure they understand there's a problem with it.
Make sure
You
to.
and the other agent know there's a problem with the skylight doesn't mean that your buyer does necessarily. So the buyer, so think about where your exposure is on this. Obviously, the only person that could ever be mad about this would be the buyer if they buy it and then they find out they have a problem with the skylight. You and the listing agent talking about the skylight, going back and forth, is not disclosing it to the buyer. You guys are talking about each other. You guys are incentivized to make this deal go through. Think about it from a judge's standpoint. Okay, you guys are incentivized to make this deal go through. You are not trustworthy as far as disclosure goes, unless you can show that you have emailed your buyer and told not on the phone, because they can deny that. Or maybe they didn't understand. They thought you're talking about. So email them and say, there's an issue with the skylight, we're getting our inspection. Our inspection will show it, and then they're going to get an inspection and share it with us. So we're going to get this thing double inspected for you. If we don't like it after that, we can negotiate with them or back out of the contract. Just give them, make sure you give them the what's happened, what the problem is, what the solution is going to be, and our options when we get the information.
Okay, I'll put an email because yeah, we talked about it, but I didn't put anything in writing. So I'll go ahead and produce an email.
The phone is not your friend. The phone is your friend to build relationships, but it's not your friend when it comes to actual business. Make sure that you get it in writing.
Okay, we'll get that in writing. And then the other one, the owner bought it in March, and I guess they flip it and they put it on the market right now. And same thing, they don't have a seller's disclosure because of that.
Yeah, that's very common. That's somebody just buying it and selling it. They don't know anything that's wrong. Obviously, they got an inspection when they bought it. They can share that with you. You can ask them for it. If they got an inspection when they bought it, they might have bought it at auction or something, and they didn't get an inspection. That happens all the time. So,
so we'll go by the inspection that we do.
Just make sure that your inspection is good and that you're communicating with the buyers exactly what's on the inspection. Make sure they're picking the inspector also. You guys give them some options if they want it. Otherwise, give them 3 options and tell them to Google some more. But if this looks like it's your cousin or your best friend or something that's the inspector, and that you railroaded them into buying something and tell them nothing's wrong with it, you are in trouble.
Okay.
All right. So make sure they pick the inspector. I don't care if your best friend's an inspector. You can't give them business. You can put them on a list. I wouldn't even do that. That's kind of, you know, a relative or a best friend or something like that. That doesn't look good.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Even if they're doing a great job and they're completely honest and everything else, there's always something. You guys have seen this before. There's always somebody. You guys have all had crazy clients and crazy things.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm selling I've got a new car I'm picking up today. I'm selling my old car to a friend of mine, and I just feel terrible. It's got a lot of miles, and I'm just, it runs perfect. But what if it breaks down a month from now and just the engine blows up or something, So it's just one of those things you never know. All right. Any other questions on that? Okay. That was that. Let's go to seller's property disclosure. You guys know the lead-based paint. We can go through this. You guys any questions on lead-based paint? Those houses are getting older and older now. Time is flying by. Okay, seller's disclosure. No known lead-based paint, lead-based hazards are present in the housing. You guys, I haven't seen you guys do this. Seller has no knowledge of lead-based paint or lead-based paint hazards in the housing. I guess if something's wrong with your kids or something, you'd look at it. But most of the time they don't know of anything. They would have gotten it fixed. Anything that they've had done here, if they did know about it, this would be where they would do on B, or typically seller has no reports or records pertaining because they don't know of any hazards. This is most of the time. If you do know, obviously you disclose that here and you disclose what you did about it, and any treatments that you had done. Buyers acknowledge they've received copies, pamphlet, and this. Everybody always checks this off and doesn't ever get any of this stuff. They do get an inspection, or they waive the opportunity to do it, one or the other. And so the sellers sign it, the licensee signs it, the buyers sign it, and their licensee, their agent signs it as well. These are just agents, not brokers. Just sign it and send it on. Any questions on that?
Hey, Ryan, is there a copy of that pamphlet in the paperless pipeline forms?
I don't think so.
Where do we find that to actually give it to people if we want to start at least putting it in the paper clips on MLS?
Well, I just Googled it, and the EPA has one that is a PDF. And here you go. There you go.
I
Protect
think
your family from lead in your home.
It's on paperless pipeline too, I think.
Oh, is it on there? Okay. We're so good. I don't even know.
Thank you.
You bet, buddy. So I just did protect your family from, and it popped up on Google, from lead in your home. And the EPA has this PDF that I can download in 2 seconds. Look, everybody's kids seem fine. We'll see. See how they turn out. All right. All right. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question not related to those forms, Ryan.
Okay.
For a listing of a property that is going to be put on a LLC under some biz, but it's not yet on property records because it takes a while for the county. The listing agreement, when signed, goes under the name for the seller that is registered under some biz.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Some biz has nothing to do with this.
I mean,
So
so
no. LLC that has a
Yeah.
managing member.
yes.
So you're saying the LLC just closed on a property, but it's been just 2 weeks or something. It's not on the property appraiser site.
No, I have a potential listing that I am potentially getting. It's not signed yet. They are waiting to put that property on a company, on an LLC register.
Okay, wait. The LLC exists or does not exist?
Does not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, they need to go ahead and do it.
But what I'm saying is when it does exist, because it takes time to update the property records under the county, where do I look up that information to make sure that I have the correct name?
Okay, it's owned by an individual right now, or individuals?
Individual, one
Okay.
person.
That individual is going to quit claim it to the LLC. And as soon as they do that, you don't have to wait for it to show up in public records. You can list it under
Okay,
the LLC.
under the LLC name.
Yeah,
Okay,
As soon as the attorney's office or title company that does this quit claim, as soon as they drop it off at the courthouse to be recorded, you can list it under that LLC.
okay, thank you.
All right. I'm not a lawyer, but as soon as they execute it and put it in to be recorded, you don't have to wait for it to show up. That's just a website for public information. That's not something you have to wait for. All right. Any other questions? Because they do officially own it at that point. You can officially own something and list it for sale. It doesn't matter. I don't care if I don't know if you guys know property appraiser site has a lot of names wrong and this wrong and that wrong.
Yes,
We had one recently that one of our property management owners is in Singapore, and they'd owned this property since 2010, and it still had the previous owner on there. And they had to go back and present old documents and stuff to show that they had bought it. It was a title company mistake. Or it just didn't get recorded somehow. So but the title company helped and got it redone. Took about a month. Yes,
And,
Chad, good question.
If on the title side as well, if they use Simply File, then see if they can get you a copy of the confirmation that it was submitted through Simply File, and that should work as well. That's proof.
Yeah, and you're never going to have to prove it as long as they did. I mean, as long as they did it. I mean, make sure that they said they did it. You're going off of their information. But if they said they did it, you're never going to have to prove it, because by the time they close, you get a buyer and do all that stuff. It'll obviously be recorded in a couple of weeks. So it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, if they have that, I would like to see proof that they put it in that. So yeah, tell them part of their listing package, you just want to see the deed where you did the quit claim.
okay. And then, but the seller's information will be the LLC name.
Absolutely. Yeah, the previous owner doesn't matter anymore. Okay. Any other questions? You guys have anything to share? Anything you want to talk about? What's going on with you? What's going on with them? Oh, you guys have had an incredible month. April is back to 2021 numbers. Fantastic. 2021, early 2022 numbers before the interest rates went crazy. You guys had a great month in April. You're probably doing great in May. I haven't looked. But you guys did great in April. So great job. Market is picking back up. It is my theory that is based on nothing but whatever goes on in my brain, that There's just a lot of people that have life events who have been holding off for as long as they can, and they're just swallowing these 7% interest rates now. They didn't want to, they just had to. And I think that's why it's picking back up. It's just the overflowing demand, and people not able to wait on the interest rates to come down, because it doesn't look like they are. And they're announcing that they're not. So I think people are saying, they kept saying, you know, oh gosh, we'll just hold on till this summer, rates will go back down. And then they keep telling you every month, inflation's still going a little strong. We're not taking the rates down. Because when they take the rates down, it's going to set it on fire again. There's going to be so much pent up demand. When they do take rates down, it's going to go crazy. So not just the housing market, everything, the supermarket too, unfortunately, everything, every market. Any questions, comments?
I do have a question in regards, well, this is more to the lending side, but I have someone that's buying a second home. It'll be investment. They're gonna be financing. So at that point, do they the lender charges points? And they're telling them that it's because it's a second home, it's an investment home.
Chad, would you like to take that question? Chad's a lender.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Well, it depends. When they're talking points, are they talking about the origination fee?
Yes.
Because so if they're going to like a hard money lender, any lender is going to charge points. That's how they make money. That's their commission. It just depends. They might just be saying, oh, okay, our origination fee is 2.75%. Or if they're going through a hard money lender, it may be that the lender they're going through, like I would go through a separate hard money guy. They would get, 2-3 points. I would get a point on their percentage of the business in that. So if they're just saying, hey, we're charging points, then it's likely just the origination fee. If they're trying to bring the interest rate down so they can actually get the debt to income ratio where it needs to be, then they could potentially be charging points just to get the interest rate down. So I would ask for clarification on what the points are going to on there, because if they're buying it down because they have to, be able to afford, the monthly payments on there, because interest rates are insane, especially for investment properties. You're probably paying 8-9% minimum on there. Then that's one thing. But if it's just we're going to be charging 2-3 points, and that's likely just the origination fee, and that's the commission for the lender or the broker on there. So which you might be able to negotiate.
Okay.
Okay, so you can always talk to the loan originator and ask them how much are they making on this, because if it's lender paid, then you're likely not going to see on the disclosure how much they're getting paid. If it's buyer paid, then you're going to see it on the loan estimate and the closing disclosure origination points on there. And if it is lender paid, then that means the interest rate is going to be higher than if they just paid it at closing. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So ask them if it's lender or buyer paid, and how many points they're charging. I believe on most loans they can only go up to like 2.75% unless it's a hard money, in which case sky's the limit on there.
Okay. So ask them if it's buyer paid or broker paid, right? Lender
Yeah.
paid.
Lender paid.
Mhm.
So lender paid just means that they're rolling it into the loan.
Okay. Okay. I'll have them ask that, because they're asking me, and I'm like, I don't know. I haven't heard about, I know about having to pay points to bring down the interest rate, but not.
Yeah, it's likely just how much the broker or loan originator is charging to actually process the loan. So if you have questions, shoot me an email or chat at yourplaceocala.com, and I'll be happy to look over any disclosures or anything they have and give you a second opinion on it.
Okay.
Chad,
Yes.
Chad, throw that email in chat, please.
Okay.
I want to answer. I'll get to you in a second, Celeste. Barb, a few days ago, saw on social media, AJAF has a listing coming soon. Is that illegal? No. Depends on how much information they put and what they did. They do the address and all that stuff, then yes. But if they just said they have a listing coming soon in Oviedo near the water, then no. Anybody want to, I've got a waterfront listing coming soon. Let me know if you're interested. That's perfectly fine. If they say I've got 1245 Lakeshore Drive coming up, that's not. Okay. Unless they put their sign out. They can do it on a Friday and have, do it on a Friday and have it on MLS on Monday. Yes. They get that whole weekend of a pocket listing because that's one business day. All right. Celeste.
Hey, just wanted to remind everybody,
You muted yourself in the middle of your
I'm
sentence.
sorry.
That's
Sorry. This is the time to have conversations with people whose kids are graduating, older kids. I've spoken with 2 people that have kids, one graduating college, and they're making moves. They're talking about selling their house, downsizing. So this is the time. So have those conversations with your sphere, friends, your family members. Everybody knows somebody. Look at Facebook and see how many graduations are going on now. This is the time to be having those conversations.
Yes, my kid's graduating next week, and that's great. Don't harass me about it.
Not you.
You know what's great about that, Celeste? I love that. And here's what you guys remember the words that we heard from one of our presenters one time. Oh, congratulations on little Stanley graduating. What's next for you guys?
Right.
What's next for you guys? What happens next? Wow, that's a big deal. Congratulations. Isn't he your youngest? What happens next? What's next for you guys? So that's
right.
a great way to get into it without saying, hey, I bet you want to get rid of that giant house now that all your kids are gone. You empty nesters, your life is empty. You've got nothing going on with yourself. When you like to downsize, but just what's next for you guys? So that's great. Great, friendly, and interesting question to ask.
Yeah, that's awesome, Celeste. I'm doing a presentation for the seniors at my daughter's school. They have a financial literacy class where they learn about a lot of different real life stuff, which has been great. So I'm going to talk to them about buying a house and what they could do to start now. And I also have some information to give them to their parents about, home selling and different information like that. So that kind of all ties together. But you're definitely right. It's a big transition for a lot of families that I know and that Ryan probably knows too, since we both have seniors. So that's great ideas.
Yeah, and with these, our state is, as you guys know, overcrowded. Hopefully, you guys have made some money helping crowd it. But our state is overcrowded, and our schools are overcrowded. Our universities are overcrowded. A lot of kids are staying home, and they've, a lot of these Valencias and Seminole States and all these colleges, Hillsborough, all these colleges they've made into state colleges now. These used to be community colleges. They're state colleges now. And lots of kids are staying home and doing that. And, there's all kinds of parenting advice and other stuff out there. Like if your kid is going to stay home and still live with you, charge them, they're going to be working and going to college, charge them $500 a month rent and put that $500 every month into a savings for them. And after 3 years, they've got 18 grand for a down payment for a house. There's stuff like that, just kind of parenting ideas to throw out there. Those are the kind of things that you can throw by some of these parents. And then, 2 or 3 years when the kid's ready to buy a house, stay in touch with them, this whole time. Put them on your list if they seem like they're actually going to do that. So just stuff to throw out there. Any other questions before we go? All right. Well, it's been a great class. You guys have been wonderful. You had a great month in April too. And I'm excited about seeing what you guys have for the summer. Let's go. Hopefully you had implemented some of the ideas we talked about last week. Next week, very cool. Some of you guys remember Steve Black. Anybody remember Steve Black? He is doing a really cool thing. Let me pull up. I'm going to pull up the flyer for it. Here we go. Here we go. Let me share this with you guys. This is next Wednesday, 10:30, regular meeting here. Says it's sharing, but I don't see it popping up yet. Here it goes. All right. See if I can upload this. No, I cannot. All right. I don't know if you guys can read that. Make 2024 your best year ever. The masterclass will take your business to a whole new level and give you edge on the competition. Simple Facebook and Instagram strategies to get referrals, Instagram setup, stories and reels to make you stand out from the competition, posting and video strategies to position yourself as the hyper-local expert so clients insist on having you represent them, building an unforgettable personal brand, 30 pics you must take now. Can't wait to see that. Artificial intelligence tools and apps to save 3+ hours a week. Virtual open house promotion, the secret to reaching cash buyers. Buyer scripts that work in higher interest rate environment. Seller scripts that generate listings in a tight market. 60 minutes of cutting edge strategies and tactics that top agents leverage that will instantly help you thrive in today's selling environment to generate more listings and find qualified buyers. All right, that's next week. So something to be excited about. And those of you who don't know Steve Black, look him up if you want. Google him, YouTube him, whatever. He does all kinds of stuff. And he's done social media stuff here for us for quite some time. Oh gosh, 6 or 7 years. I've had him come in maybe 4 or 5 times. All right, guys. Well, thank you all very much. Any last questions before we go? Going once, going twice. Chad Taylor, I knew I'd get one. Yes.
Hey, sorry. Real quick, if anybody else needs door hangers, please shoot me an email. I've got really nice ones that include business card holder on it, on there, and also in the Facebook group, going to be putting in a template for a buyer's guide, like a buyer's from beginning to end guide on there. That's a template for Canva. So people can change that, put their information on there. That we made. Just try to spread the love to the FRI community, providing that for free. But it's also got something on there where you can list all your vendors, everything that you recommend, so that way you can never be, accused of steering anybody on there. It has multiple choices for each one that you can add in.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, Chad. All right, any other questions? That's really cool. Chad, I think we saw, did Angie, you or Angie one put a I think you did, on our Facebook page. You put a picture of it. Very nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions before we go? All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming. I will see you guys next week. We'll have Steve Black next week. It's going to be very exciting. He's very high energy. All right, good morning and welcome everybody to today's open forum. Appreciate you guys all coming in. You look great. Those of you on camera, those of you who can get on camera, please do that. I'd love to see your reactions and responses to things. Your lovely faces. Please be as interactive as you can today. This stuff, I need to make sure that you guys are catching it, and that if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. And great to see you, Christina. Thanks for coming on. All you guys, thank you and good morning. All right, I'm going to share. There's Harvey. I'm going to share with you guys the screen. Oh, look at this, Clarence. This is exciting. All right. We're going to share screen here, and we're going to go over a few things. I don't know if you guys use Transaction Desk or Form Simplicity. I don't care. You can use whatever you'd like. Those of you who don't know, Form Simplicity is put on by Florida Realtors, and Transaction Desk is through your MLS affiliation. Let's talk about creating a transaction. Let's say we have a listing. That's what we're talking about today. So let's say we have a listing. This is what I do from, this is Transaction Desk is my preferred one. I don't care what you do. I like to use Transaction Desk because I can answer questions on it a lot easier, just have a lot more experience with it. Name of this is 2675 Cabernet Circle. That is a property that I used to own. So So I knew it existed. Residential listing, let's do. Import data, select source. Use Realist Stellar, and it is going to ask me, it is in Orange County, Florida, in the tax ID, which I've already looked it up on the Orange County Property Appraiser, which I'm not sharing that with you guys because it's not popping up on the screen, but I already have the tax ID, which I got from there. And there we go. Everybody see that okay? All right, there we go. We're going to create this. We did use Wizard, but we don't really need to. I'm not going to do any of this stuff. The reason you want to do this is because it's going to fill in all of the legal stuff. Okay. There it is. We're just going to save and exit from here. You can put in the listing price and do that, fill that kind of stuff out right then. I'd rather just do it on the form. So when you do that, we have, as a brokerage, a template of different things. I don't know if you guys have been using this, but we have a template. We already have the right transaction broker listing agreement, the things that we prefer that you use. We already have those loaded on here. And they're typically, just because the way I put them in, they list them upside down. So the most important and common one is last. Then next would be the homeowner association, then the seller's property, and then disclosure, and then short sale addenda, lead-based paint, etc. Okay. So those are things that you will find, those of you who are familiar with our system, that are in your checklist. And of course, you don't always need all these things. It's not always in a homeowner association. Your seller won't always do a property disclosure. Your what else is there? The short sale, obviously, it's not always a short sale. And obviously, it's not always lead-based. So those things, as you guys know, if you've done deals, you haven't had those forms, and Michaela or any sales administrator that we've had has X those off of the list without you even seeing them. They're on the checklist and then they're off, and you didn't supply them. So they're not checked off, they're just deleted. She has to do that with every one that isn't a short sale, which is about 99.9% of them, which is wonderful. We haven't seen a lot of short sales. I will discuss it real briefly with you guys just so you know how it works. But first, we're going to do the listing agreement. Guys, I'm going to run through this listing agreement. If you have questions, stop me. We have usually when I do these refreshers on things, it's because we've had a little bit of issue. I've had questions. Can I do a limited listing? Yes, you can. That's perfectly fine. It's not great business, but you can do one. It's just, it's not usually strong salesmanship, but you absolutely can do it. All right. So they always mess up the names here. I'm not going to do all three names. These are the people that bought the property from me. Rand Paul and Center. All right, so that's that. Here we're going to put Florida Realty Investments. This is not your name, it is our brokerage. If you want to put / your name, that's I don't really care. It's the deal is the paperwork and the laws of agency say it's with Florida Realty Investments. Okay, now this line, this is important. I get this question a lot from you guys. This line 6 is, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Yeah, you can a little bit. This line is important. It does not matter. I answer this question once a week for you guys. Does not matter when they signed the listing agreement. What matters is the date here. Okay, this is the date of this agreement. I can sign an agreement for you to list my house starting in December. Okay, I can sign it today. You've had people do that. You've had people say, you know what, we're going to leave town. We're going out of the country for a month, but we want you to start listing our property. How long will it take you to get it on the market? And you say, well, I've got to we're going to finish the flooring, and I got to get photos, and I got to get this and this. I need 2 weeks to get it on the market. And so they'll sign something that starts in 2 weeks, but they're leaving town today. Okay, you can absolutely do that. You can do it 2 months. You can do it a year from now. Doesn't matter. When they sign it doesn't matter. You don't need an MLS exclusion because they've already signed it. The date that they sign it does not matter. All that matters is this. Okay, these are the dates that you have the right to list the property. That's it. If the property is under contract when it terminates, let's say it takes you get a 3-month listing agreement. I recommend longer, but if let's say you get a 3-month listing agreement and it takes 60 days and it goes under contract, and then it doesn't close for 45 days. So it closes 15 days after your contract runs out. Your listing agreement runs out. Do you need to re-up the listing agreement to close that deal and get paid? Anybody know? Absolutely not. You got it signed up while it was under the listing agreement, so it doesn't matter when it closes. It can take, we've had deals take 4 or 5 months to close, right? And the listing agreement has terminated because it ran out. That's perfectly fine. It's great if you get them to extend the listing agreement, but you don't have to. If it's under contract, pending, doesn't matter. You still get paid. You got the deal. You were the procuring cause during that time. All right. They figured out all the legal stuff here. Is it currently occupied by a tenant? Okay, that only is a tenant, not the owner. So if it's the owner still living there, is not currently occupied by a tenant. Obviously, if it's rented out, it is, and you put the expiration of the lease. I've had that question also. The owner's living there. Is that a tenant? No, that's the owner. Price doesn't matter. Let's sell it for cheap. All right, 199,000. Cash, conventional. People typically take all those, but whatever they'll agree to take here, or whatever they can take. Obviously, some condos and stuff can't take FHA. Certain properties can't take FHA. Then we won't do that. Seller financing, all that stuff is obviously complicated. We'll get into that, and we won't get into that today, but we'll get into it on a case by case. You're going to get an attorney involved with any kind of seller financing because you need a mortgage and a note. You guys don't write those. Okay, multiple listing service, all the things that you guys do. Okay. Display the property on the internet except the street address. So this is only if they don't want their street address. So I've never clicked that one. Seller does not authorize broker to display property on the MLS. That's happened before. But whatever it is, have them sign here. Use a lockbox system, withhold verbal offers. I typically, I always check this one, even if we're not sure we're going to. Withhold verbal offers, I do not check that because I want to run them by them if I can, if they're reasonable. Withhold all offers once seller accepts a sales contract for the property. I typically do that one. That's just me. I don't like the seller to get greedy and try to get out of a deal and all that stuff if you already have a deal. They don't really understand how they need to understand how binding a sales contract is, particularly for the seller. Seller does not authorize automated estimate of the market.